Hey guys, how y'all doing? It's JacksFan98. I'm going to try so hard not to make this a rant video, but I'm going to be talking about the officiating in the NFL this season. And all of you who have watched it anyone who has watched an NFL game this season has you can tell that the officiating has not been very good. And okay, part of that is that these guys are human. They're watching the plays at these players going at 100 miles per hour, and it's hard to watch everything. Sure, you got a few guys on the reffing crew, but it's hard to watch everything that's going on. With that being said, some of these calls that are being missed are really bad. Like Allen Robinson against the Green Bay Packers was being held constantly, and it was never called. It was almost every single play he was getting held. And then against the Kansas City Chiefs, Chris Ivory is given the ball on the goal line, gets half of the ball over the goal line, then loses control, and they call it a fumble. Okay, now it was close. It's really hard to tell in real time because there are a bunch of people there. Okay, I can see why they would have called that. I honestly thought it was a fumble when I first saw it too. Then they reviewed it, and you see half of the ball over the goal line. And then he loses control. And they still call it a fumble. Why? That's obviously the wrong call. Everyone knows it was the wrong call. The Jags fans know it was the wrong call. Like, the announcers were saying it was the wrong call. People on NFL Network analyzing the game said it was the wrong call. But nothing's really done about it. And then there was this most recent game against the Buffalo Bills, where Shady McCoy is okay, so for those of you who didn't watch the game, the Jaguars were trying to stop the Bills so they could get the ball back using all their timeouts. The Bills are trying to run out the clock. So they pitch the ball to Shady McCoy, and he steps out of bounds. And they said since he went backwards out of bounds a step, that the clock doesn't stop. Therefore, the Jaguars had to use a timeout. I've watched football since I was 8 years old, religiously, and I've never, ever, ever heard that before. Never. It just doesn't. It doesn't make sense to me. Why? Why is that a thing now in a critical moment when the Jaguars need to play? And then let's also not forget the missed pass interference call on Allen Robinson, where he was getting his jersey yanked so bad to the point where he was hopping because he couldn't run his route. And it impeded a critical third down. And when that play got ended, and it was obviously an incomplete pass because he was getting held so badly, the Jaguars went for it on fourth down, and they didn't make it. And that was a really crucial moment in the game. And then let's also not forget when Tayshaun Gibson got an interception that would have been a huge game-changing play, but instead they called pass interference on Prince Amukamara because Prince Amukamara was standing in front of the receiver. He didn't touch him. He actually had his back to the receiver. He didn't touch him at all. But they called it pass interference because because apparently he was standing in front of the receiver like he doesn't have a right to the ball. I don't understand it. I think that's just good body positioning there. But that interception got taken away. The Bills got a really good yardage gain, and they used that to their advantage and scored a touchdown. And that's when the momentum really shifted between the Jaguars and Bills. And what I'm saying is that so many of these missed calls and missed penalties they're impacting games. And especially as a Jags fan, I feel like there's always several of these calls every single game. And they say, oh, the good teams are going to get the calls, or the elite players are going to get the calls. Why is that? That shouldn't be how the NFL is. It should be fair. Why? I'm not saying the Jaguars should get more calls than any other team. I'm just saying there should be an equal amount. The Browns should get as many calls as the 10-1 Dallas Cowboys should get. It doesn't matter what team you are. You should get the same amount of calls. There shouldn't be a bias. There shouldn't be a bias towards the good teams getting calls or the good players for getting calls. It's just not right. The game, you're supposed to give an equal chance for each team to win. And by missing those calls, you're not doing that. And I think they really should make penalties reviewable. And they should make it so refs can get fined. Now, I don't understand why players like Richard Sherman and Josh Norman, who spoke out on stuff like that, ended up getting fined for speaking their opinion. It's not like they're wrong. I mean, they have very valid points. They weren't really disrespectful. Maybe Josh Norman calling out that one official was a little uncalled for, but they really weren't that disrespectful. They were just speaking their mind. And Richard Sherman's a smart guy. What he said was very educated, and he had a really good point. But the NFL just refuses to acknowledge it. And again, this is why I do think penalties should be reviewable. I'm not saying every single penalty should be reviewable. I'm not saying this will fix every single problem in games, but it'll make them a lot better. I'm saying just review 2 penalties a game or 2 penalties a half, something like that. And the penalties that are reviewable should be plays like pass interference or roughing the passer, like a late hit or something. Not something like holding, because there's basically holding on every single play if you look hard enough. But pass interference, like on the critical call to Allen Robinson, if the Jaguars would have been able to challenge that, that would have helped a lot, because I understand these guys are human. They can't see everything. But again, that's a critical missed call, and it was very blatant that that was pass interference. And then there's the same thing that went the other way on Prince of Mukamara, where he didn't even touch the guy. Again, you challenge that, and that completely changes the game. So I'm just saying, if you're able to review those penalties, this would help the league so much, because the officiating is getting out of hand. And I understand these guys are trying. They're trying their best and everything, but I don't know, man. I think there's something that needs to be done to rectify what's going on, because there's an outrage throughout the league among these players on these missed calls, because the refs at the end of the game just go out and apologize. And sure, it's great that they apologize and admit they made a mistake, but why not try to rectify those mistakes before it's too late and all they can do is apologize? Anyways, that's just my opinion. Let me know what you guys think down in the comments, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.